This is Reuters Today. Coming up, we'll tell you who took home the prizes on a night of awards in LA and London. But first, let's look ahead to a big week for big talk. Barack Obama putting the finishing touches to tomorrow's State of the Union. Once again, it's likely to be the economy, stupid. White House officials saying bet on proposals for investment in infrastructure, manufacturing and clean energy. And world leaders are packing their bags for Moscow. Will Friday's G20 summit be a more cheery affair amid signs from an upturn for the world economy? Let's get straight to Mike Ingram, market commentator, BGC. What do you think? More cheery affair, G20?
Well, I think one of the things that will raise its head again is currency wars, actually. What we saw last week was what amounted to verbal intervention by Mario Draghi on the euro. We've had some news overnight from Mr. Kuroda, who's the head of the Asian Development Bank and seen as a front runner for the new governorship of the Bank of Japan. And we saw Venezuela devalue over the weekend. So I think that's certainly something which is going to move front and centre once again.
How much threat are competitive devaluations?
Well, it's ultimately it leads us to a sort of beggar thy neighbour policy which blighted the global economy in the 1930s. There are no winners ultimately from currency wars, but what we're going to see in the meantime are probably a lot of appreciating emerging market currencies, people flying into these high yielding FX, and a lot of agitating amongst the emerging market members of the G20 in the meantime.
And State of the Union, what kind of message are we going to get from Obama, do you think?
I suspect it'll be another sideswipe against the Republicans. I think he'll say that the economy is on the right track, it's making progress, but the economy is not yet secure. Of course, he can fall back really on that really rather weak Q4 GDP number and say that the last thing we need now is to drive off, basically a fiscal cliff.
Is Eurogroup a focus for you today?
It will be, yes. I mean, I think the way that's unfolding is actually quite weak and quite worrying, and will ultimately undermine markets going forward within Europe.
Quick word on the earnings. They've been pretty poor in Europe. Of course, tomorrow we get more bank earnings out of the UK. The bank's very much in focus here in the UK today as well. What's your general take on the earnings?
Well, earnings actually from the UK banks are set to be quite good. If you look at what Barclays, which is expecting out tomorrow, they're expecting something like 40% year on year in terms of growth, and that's despite all the various provisions that they've had to make over the course of 2012. However, one would have to say that's probably not enough to lift markets as a whole. If you compare it to the US, I mean, the US was expecting 4% growth, it's delivering 9%. In Europe, growth, particularly on the financial side, is overall very, very disappointing indeed.
All right, thanks a lot, Mike. In world news, tension mounting in Cairo as protesters gather for a day of demonstrations against the government. The protests come exactly 2 years after former President Hosni Mubarak stood down. Now protesters say new President Mohamed Morsi is trying to monopolize power. Clashes Friday saw one person killed and more than 200 injured. And it's been a night of awards in Los Angeles and London. British folk band Mumford & Sons took home the Best Album gong at the Grammys, but Australian singer Gotye grabbed the Best Record prize for his heartbreak hit, Somebody That I Used to Know. And there was a surprise winner at the BAFTA Film Awards in London, with Ben Affleck's Argo taking home the Best Film Award. That tells us nothing, of course, about who's going to win the equivalent Oscar, since Argo isn't even nominated for an Academy Award. That is it for now. I'll leave you with our pick of the day. Get ready for this. Chinese New Year ushering in the Year of the Snake. How else to mark the occasion but by passing a live snake through your nose? That's how this Beijing street performer sees it, at least. I'm Axel Threlfall. This is Reuters.